Hi everyone, welcome to this video and a series of videos on the signaling system and dispatching system of the SLS railroad. This video is going to cover granting track authority, and we'll basically cover what track authority is as it relates to the dispatching panel and how a dispatcher may use it. As we've covered in signals and turnouts, we basically have a menu available to us by right-clicking on a section of track, and this little window here comes up. With this window coming up, we have Occupy Block, Grant Track Authority, Grant Out of Service, and Position Train. We're going to concentrate on granting track authority. Let's suppose, for instance, that the Sage switcher has just called and needs to come from the steel mill lead and go over to Sage Yard. He's been switching over at the potash plant and over at some of the other industries at the steel mill. In order to remind us that we've given him track authority so that we don't route any trains through there, I'm going to right-click after I've given him acknowledgement that he is authorized to do so. I'm going to go ahead and right-click on that section of track, and I'm going to left-click on Grant Track Authority and click Accept. Once I've done that, notice the section of track turns blue. This indicates that the track is, in what the system terms, Grant Track Authority, and that prohibits me from being able to route a turnout or being able to throw a signal. So I cannot throw the signal or throw a turnout while this is in place. This is a protection for the train. In the case of what I mentioned, the premise is that I have a train coming off the steel mill lead and needs to go over to Sage Yard. I'm going to need to grant 3 sections of track authority. I'm going to need to grant track authority to the West Sage OS. I'm going to need to grant it to the West Sage OS siding, and I'm going to need to grant it to the Sage siding. Notice now I have all 3 of these blocks blue. That doesn't tell me as an indication of status of the block or anything else. He now can take it into unlock, and we can basically utilize this to keeping us in mind as to where we can route a train that may be coming from the west, or maybe coming from the east, or maybe coming from the west. Let's say, for instance, that I have a train and I wanted to route it east or westbound. I could route him basically as far. I could not route him down into down through the East Sage OS because, again, I have my track authority. So I would need to route my train, and I could only bring him up as far as the signal here. Keeping in mind that I need to make sure that my crew knows that they cannot likewise go beyond that signal because they were not given authorization to go beyond the limits of the OS as far as their track and time authority permitted. I can essentially use my grant track authority anywhere on the layout that I wish, so long as I am sure that I am not going to be conflicting with a train movement. Keep in mind that if I have a route lined, such as this, and I grant track authority, it's going to drop my signal red. And as we described in signals, we would not want to throw a red in front of a train unnecessarily. One aspect of granting track authority that is routine from session to session involves the small section of track that you see here, and that is the superior paper diamond. This section of track is not detected, but does have 2 dwarf signals that indicate to the crew when you have granted that track authority. So, in order to get those signals to change from red to green, you simply come up to that section of track, right-click on it, grant track authority, and now the signals out on the layout would go from red to green. And they will stay green as long as you have that grant track authority in place. Next, if I want to route a train through West Sage, I'm still able to. I can still throw my turnout, and I can route up on New Main. But the system will not allow me to will not allow me to clear a route on Old Main. It will tell me there is a reservation conflict, and that is because of my grant track authority. So in order to clear that again, I just right-click on that section of track, I left-click on Remove Track Authority, and left-click on Accept, and again, that is cleared. Again, I would do that after my crew has told me that they are clear of the diamond. Sometimes it can get confusing, and they may ask for authorization and track and time to work the paper plant. You need to make sure that there is a distinction between using the West Sage OS and the Superior Paper Diamond, since if they request the entire OS, you essentially have no ability to get trains through the West Sage area, and everything will come to a stop. Whereas if they are just simply using the Superior Paper Diamond, you do have the ability to still use, as I illustrated earlier, New Main down through the Y and on continuing eastbound or westbound, as the case may be. Granting track authority in dark territory essentially is exactly the same thing as granting track authority in a signal section of track, except that it doesn't affect anything as far as routing signals in. So if I wanted to do a grant track authority on Ashley Siding, it would not restrict me, because again, it's getting a lunar and there is no protection as far as that section of track is concerned. So there is nothing electrically, or there's nothing logic-wise within the signaling system or the software that it's realizing. It's just basically a bookkeeping method for the dispatcher to know where they've given track authority. Typically, when you put a tag from a train, and which we'll cover in another video detailing tags, but when you put a tag on a section of track that is dark territory, it will go red, indicating where you've given limits to anyway. So we don't necessarily need to concern ourselves with that. So with that in mind, that pretty much covers everything dealing with granting track authority. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, but we appreciate your attention, and we hope you have a nice day. Thank you.